Welcome to episode 21 of Book Writing Tips, quick tips for new and seasoned authors, and I am your host, Alba Arango. In today's episode, I want to talk about characters and tech. And I don't mean like AI or using AI as an author or anything along those lines at all. What I actually mean is your characters utilizing tech. And if you're writing nonfiction, that would be the narrator in your book, whether you're doing a how-to book or a memoir, the narrator in your book utilizing text. And if you're doing fiction, I literally mean the characters in your book and how they utilize tech. So with no further ado, let's get down to talking about technology in your book. Alrighty then, today's episode will be in two parts as always. In the first part, I'm going to focus on nonfiction, and in the second part, I want to talk about fiction and the characters inside of fiction books. But before we get to fiction, let's talk about nonfiction. So if you are writing, say, a memoir does follow the path of fiction writing for most things, but one thing about memoir that is unique than fiction is that everything is true. I mean, it's a slice of your life. And if you're writing an autobiography, obviously that counts as well because you're talking about your whole life. So what I mean by incorporating technology into, say, your writing, if you're writing memoir or autobiography, is this. If you're writing about events leading up to this catalyst event that affected your life completely, which is why you're writing this memoir, if you want to bring readers really into the setting, into the time frame you're talking about. So let's just say you're in your 50s and you're writing about an event that took place in like 1980. And so you're talking about the 70s and your childhood. Think about the technology from the 70s. So if you're talking about, watching TV as a family, you may need to kind of elaborate on that for today's modern reader. Because unless they are your age, they aren't going to actually fathom the fact that you guys had only one TV that only probably had 3 or 4 stations to choose from, and you had to watch it at a specific time or else you missed the show and there was no rerun or repeat or VCR or DVD or streaming service. So they're not going to quite grasp that. So kind of incorporating what the technology was like in the 1970s is going to help bring your readers into that setting. And if your readers are in the 50s, that is only going to jog their memory. It's about, oh my gosh, I so remember that. Like we had to make sure Wednesday nights at 8:00, we were right in front of that TV or else we would miss it. And you could even, joke about, running to the bathroom during commercial breaks. All right. But that's a way to incorporate technology into the setting to bring your readers into that moment that you are focusing on in your book if you're writing a memoir. Now, if you are writing, say, a how-to book, that is obviously a little bit different. That makes it a little bit harder for you to kind of incorporate technology. Unless you're writing a tech book, then obviously it's a given. But if you're writing a how-to, 101 ways to paint your house a different way, how do you incorporate technology into that? But there really are ways you can do. Think of today's tech-savvy people. There are a lot of apps that you probably yourself utilize in whatever your area of expertise is. So if it is, say, painting or hanging things on the wall or interior decorating, you might have an app that has a leveler. Not everybody has an actual leveler in their house. A lot of people actually use their phones for that. So if you wanted to kind of sort of make technology something you want to talk about in your book, then maybe look up some apps that might be helpful for your readers, and that would actually bring you and your readers just that much closer, make you that much more of an expert in your field. Say you're a gardener. There is a bunch of apps out there for gardening. The ones I know, I have one. I don't remember the name of it. And if I did, I probably wouldn't say it because I don't know if it's a good app or a bad app if you're a gardener. But for me, I think it's perfect. If I'm walking out with Pumpkin, that's my dog, my beagle. If I'm out walking with Pumpkin and I see like this plant I really, really like, and I'm like, oh, that would look so good in the garden. I have an app that will literally, you take a picture of it and it tells you what that plant is. And I love that. I have used that app so many times. And that might be helpful for your readers if you're a gardener, if you are doing anything about landscaping or exterior design. So find apps that you think would be worthwhile for your readers to know and incorporate them into the writing of your book. Also true if you're writing any kind of a self-help book. So it could be one, it could be self-help physically, like to help with, working out, or meditation to help relax or deal with anxiety. Or if you're writing a book about, challenges of mental anxiety, anything like that. If you're writing any kind of a self-help book, apps that could really help your readers. So they could be YouTube videos, they could be meditation sites, they could be workout videos, they could be all kinds of different apps or websites that could help your reader along with what you are writing about. Now, it's very different in dealing with fiction. But before I get to fiction, it's time for the crazy law / writing prompt. If you're new to the show, every week I give you a crazy law, and it is something that was once upon a time a real law in history. And the challenge is for you to write a short story based on that law. And it could be what prompted the law, it could be a reaction to the law, it could be whatever you want it to be. It's your story, but it's just a way to kind of flex those writing muscles by using the crazy law as a writing prompt. So here we go. This week's crazy law. In New Orleans, Louisiana, it costs less to bite a person with your natural teeth, simple assault, than if you bite them with fake teeth, which would be considered aggravated assault. So there you go. There's your writing prompt. Have fun with that story because I'm pretty sure I could think of some crazy ideas. But all right, let's move on to part 2 and fiction. Now, I'm going to separate this also into 3 parts. We're going to talk about if you're writing a book that takes place in the past, like a period piece, or if you're writing current, or if you're writing a futuristic book. So let's start with past first. Like if you're writing a period piece, how would you incorporate your characters, incorporate technology if you're writing a Regency romance? Well, here's something you could do, and I just think this is kind of a cool idea, because if you're writing Regency romance, there are literally thousands of Regency romance books that are added to Amazon and bookstores every week. So what can kind of make yours stand out is if you actually did incorporate technology into that. And I don't mean steampunk technology, although that is a whole separate thing. Of course, you're going to incorporate technology if you're writing steampunk. But if you're writing just a regular Regency Victorian romance, well, they had gaslighting. That is one of the things that came out during the Victorian era. The telegraph came out during the Victorian era. These are things that might just add a little extra oomph to your writing if you're writing Regency. Because how cool would that be if your character was expecting a telegram, or if your characters are, strolling through the park and the new gaslighting and they're commenting on it? It's just one of those ways that you can add just that little extra something to your setting to kind of really bring your characters into the story. Now, if your piece takes place in like the 20s or the 30s, radio was super huge back then. I mean, there are people who are like literally living on the edge listening to the radio. They would listen to horse racing on the radio. They would listen to soap operas on the radio, books being read. I'm thinking about Orson Welles and the War of the Worlds and just the impact that had on America when it was read over the air live. All of those things are things that you could incorporate into your piece that would be realistic for the time, that would really add a lot of just that extra oomph to your period piece. Oh, and if you're writing a war piece set during World War II, and maybe you're going back and forth between the soldiers on the field and their families at home, you have to remember radio. Like people were glued to the news on the radio, especially anyone who had their husband serving overseas, or their friends, or their family, their fathers serving overseas. They had to know what the latest news was because they're desperate for that knowledge, to know They needed to know. And those are things you should think about when you are writing that war piece, if you're going to be talking about back home. And of course, the 50s and TV. Come on now. How could you not talk about the television with the 50s? All right. If your friends had a television in the 1950s, I mean, you were at their house at night to watch that because they had a television. Television was like this great, amazing piece of technology that, it affected everyone. If you didn't have it, you were envious of the people who did. And if you did have it, you certainly were going to take advantage of it and watch it, and TV dinners and all these things. I mean, it affected everything. So just kind of think about all of that. I mean, come on now, the 80s car phones, like if people who had car phones were like the coolest people ever. And you got to understand that your young readers today in their 20s and 30s have no idea what a car phone was or how cool it was to have a car phone, because today everyone has a cell phone, and therefore why would you need a car phone? So if you're creating a piece that's taking place in the 80s, you kind of gotta give it to these young readers who don't understand what the technology was like back then. All right, if you are writing something that takes place in present times. So first of all, I want to talk about kids' books just because I write children's books. Kids use technology probably way more than any of us my age do. I mean, they just do. It's totally central to their life. Their cell phones are like their world. So if you're creating a world of present day teenagers and you're not incorporating cell phones into the story, then your teenage readers are totally not going to relate to this character. If they're not using cell phones, there has to be a really good reason why they're not using cell phones. So for example, Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson series. Well, of course it's taking place, even it's 20 years old now, but it's taking place at a time when a lot of people, I don't think it's 20 might be an exaggeration, or maybe not, maybe it is about 20. There had to be a reason why the kids in the books didn't use cell phones, and he created the reason. Well, monsters were attracted to cell phones. They could track you that way. Therefore, demigods couldn't use cell phones. So there has to be a reason why your kids are not using cell phones. Now, if you're writing an adult book, cell phones are still a part of our lives as well. I mean, I don't know how much you use your cell phone every day, but I use my cell phone a lot. So they can incorporate that without, being preachy, without, the person constantly being on their phones. But think of how technology really has affected the way we interact with each other. So let's say your characters are on a first date. Is your main character's date, are they on their phone during dinner? And if they are, how is your protagonist reacting to this? I know how I react to this, but I'm a 55-year-old woman. If I'm with someone at dinner and they are constantly looking at their phone, I think it's rude. Now that's me. If I was 20 years old, I probably wouldn't think that. But maybe I would. And if I did, that would definitely make me a unique 20-year-old. And that would be an important character trait that you would want to show in your book. Another thing, of course, people are always taking pictures on their cell phone, be it selfies or pictures of where they're at. That might be another way to kind of make your characters more believable if they are also taking pictures all the time. It could also make your character annoying, and that might be a good character trait. Having an annoying trait for your character, like they're always taking selfies or they're always taking, is a great way that your character could grow. Maybe at the beginning of it, they're always taking selfies, and then through the story, they learned about how sometimes people can see that as being rude, and they learn to be a little more sensitive to that or something like that. Also, having no cell service and your character's flipping out about it, oh my gosh, all your readers are going to relate to that. Not having cell service, oh my gosh, that's crazy. That's just one of those things. And then you may want to even joke about AI. And it would be, of course, really funny. It could add comedic relief to your book if, your character is always using AI and then suddenly AI gets something really wrong and your character 100% believes it and it causes a great comedic, scene in your book. That's also something to consider too. And last but not least, if you are writing future, if you're writing dystopian future, the absence of cell phones, the absence of technology is superb. And it would even be, kind of cool if your characters are like, oh, my grandma told me about, they all had cell phones and they all communicated easily with everyone on the planet. I mean, just those things about reminiscing about how it was and how now it's not. So the absence of technology is a very, very powerful thing and something that your characters might even be like, oh, if only we had. kind of thing. And of course, if you're writing sci-fi, that's technology is a part of it, right? You want to, in your new world, describe the technology that they have. Like for me, I always thought it was fascinating. You're watching these new sci-fi shows and there's no such thing as cell phones in sci-fi. And I always think that's fascinating. Like what happened to cell phones? Like cell phones were like the greatest thing ever. You can communicate with everyone, but suddenly there's no cell phones. Or you're on, a spaceship and you're part of the crew and there's no cell phones. Like no one's communicating with cell phones. Like I need you on the bridge right now. Like you need to see this. Like really FaceTime. Hello. I mean, I don't know. That's just one of those things that I've always found fascinating about sci-fi. So definitely includes, including technology in your characters, how your characters use technology, how they don't use technology, how they see technology is all a great way to develop your characters even further. Thank you so much for being with me this week. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like or a comment. If you want me to discuss something specific, please leave me a message so that I know what you guys want to see and hear. And other than that, I do a new episode every Wednesday. Please take care of yourselves and I will see you all next week.